Okay, welcome back to Everything Mathematics. And today we're going to be looking at our last video for this week on the number theory and also to wrap up estimation and rounding. And we'll be looking at that at scientific notation and standard form. What is our objective for today? Today we're going to be looking basically at two things. First of all, we're going to be able to write numbers in standard form or scientific notation. Remember, those two words are synonymous. They're saying the same thing. And we're going to also be able to expand numbers from standard form. So sometimes you have it in standard form and you have to be able to understand what that number is when it is written out. Or if you have it written out, you have to be able to put it in standard form. Good. So let's go straight on to it. How to perform scientific notation or standard form. And here we have this number. The gist of it is very straightforward. So when you perform in standard form, basically you're trying to make your number have a range within 1 and 10. That's the first thing you want to do. So you will always have a decimal. Every single number in the world has a decimal value. It has a decimal point. You will always try to move that point how muchsoever amount of times you need to ensure that the number is between, your first number is between 1 and 10. And then you multiply that by 10 to the power of whatever number of times you move the point. Of course, the other issue here is the direction in which you move the point. But we're going to discuss that. If you're moving to the left, then the number becomes, you raise to a positive power. If you move to the right, your number becomes to a negative power. But we're going to address that as we look at it. Don't hurt your head over the gimmicks or the explanation. So here we have, for example, 389.1339. If I want to make this into standard form, as I said, I must make sure that these initial values are valued between 1 and 10. So to do that, I move this point 1, 2. So I move it here. I move it between the 8 and the 9. So now I will have 3.891339. And I multiply that now by 10 to the power of 2. And that is performing scientific notation. Why do I multiply 10 to the power of 2? Because I move the point twice. Why do I make it positive? Because I move it this direction. Good. There will be instances where you're moving the point in this direction. And if you move the point in this direction, then the power will become negative. And we're going to address those as they come. So let me do another quick example. So supposing I have 5,501. If I want to write this in standard form again, notice that there is a decimal point here. Even though it's not given, it's not stated, we know that there is a decimal point here. So I move that point 1, 2, 3 in order to make this number stand between 1 and 10. So now we have 5.1. So that will be the same thing as 5.501 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3. Why 3? Because I move the point 1, 2, 3 places to the left. Let's look at a negative example now. So supposing I have a number like what? Let's say 0.015. In a case like this now, I have the point here. And I want to make this number again between 1 and 10. Between 1 and 10. So to do that, I move 1, 2. Yep. But now I move in the opposite direction. So that will be 1.5 multiplied by 10 to the negative 2. Right? And negative 2 because I move from the opposite direction. So again, if you move into the right, it's negative. If you move the point to the left, it's positive to the amount of times you multiply, to the amount of times you move the point. Right? And one of the things I like to do, I wouldn't do it in this video, but one of the things I remember doing for the first time when I did this, I actually multiply this out. And if you multiply this out, for example, you will end up with this here. And that's one of the ways you could do to prove that your answer is correct. So in this case, if you multiply this, 10 to the power of 2 is the same thing as 100. So if you multiply this by 100, your point will end up moving back 2 places from where you take it from. So yes, this is actually correct. Just say it. So that's one of the things you could do to actually prove your answer if you're not comfortable with it as is, right? So let's go. Let's try some of our own. Talking alone doesn't cut it. So let's do some of our own. So supposing I have these four numbers here and I want to find out this, I want to write this in standard form. And sometimes that's what the question says. Write the following numbers in standard form, write in scientific notation, write in standard notation. Be aware of whichever way they ask you. But once you hear standard or scientific notation, you have to think the same thing. I've seen students get mixed up sometimes when I ask them to write in standard form and they think it's significant figure. So you have to be very careful there. I hope you don't get caught up there. So let's get this going. So remember again, the aim is always to make the number have a place value or looks like if it's between 1 and 10. That's always your aim. So in 230, we know that the point is over here, right? So we move that point 2 places. So from 230 now we end up at 2.3. 2.3. And as we know, there's no need to write the 0. That's not a must after the decimal place. 2.3 is the same thing as 2.30. It's okay. But what we have to bear in mind is that we counted 2 places. So that will be 2.3 multiplied by 10 squared, or 10 to the power of 2, because we move 2 places. And also we move 2 places towards in this direction, towards our left. So if we go in this direction, the power will be positive. And yeah, that's our answer here. The second one here, again, and notice this value is between 1 and 10. That's what we want to do. We want to make the number stand as a value between 1 and 10. And that's basically how we know that we are accomplishing standard notation, right? Let's go here again. We want to make this number between 1 and 10. So to do that, we move this point 1, 2, 3 places. So that would leave us with 3.489447. And that is multiplied by 10 to the power of 3. Why 3? Because I move 1, 2, 3 places to my left. Why positive? Because again, I move to the left. If I move to the right, it will be negative. And as I said, as always, you could multiply this out. If you have a calculator, 3 squared is 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000. No, 10,000. 10 times 10 is 100. 100 now is 1,000. Yes. So 1,000 multiplied by that, you realize that you'll end up with the same answer if you're not comfortable as is. Moving on swiftly. Here we have 0.000589 and of course here we are now coming from the opposite direction, so then we move in, notice 1, 2, 3, 4 places. We move 4 places from the opposite direction. In other words, we came from our right, so we know that those 4 places have to be negative. So here now we're supposed to have 5.896 multiplied by 10 to the negative 4. 4 places from the opposite direction, so it's negative 4. Yep, and easy does it, people. That's the answer. And here over here we do the same thing. 1, 2, 3. So here we need only 3 places to make this number look between 1 and 10. So then we have 1.2357. And here we move 1, 2, 3. So that will be times 10 to the negative 3. Right? And easy does it. Just like that is how we basically do standard form and standard notation. So it's not hard. I just want to show you one last thing. What if we are given in standard notation? And that's one thing you have to be able to do. If we're given in standard notation, but no, you have to write it in, let's say, the regular numbers or the decimal or whatever value that they gave us. You have to be able to do that. So I'll just do 2 quick examples here. So supposing I have 2.39 multiplied by 10 to the 5. And I'll do another one down here. Supposing we have 3.8 multiplied by 10 to the negative 3. Let's look at it this way. So first of all, you need to understand, okay, if I have to the power of 5, that means that I would have moved this point here, the same point that we're given here. We need to understand that we moved that point 5 places coming from our right. Because remember, if the power is positive, that means we came from our right. If the power is negative, that means we came from our left. So to revert this number, all we need to do is count back 5 places to where we were initially. So in this case here, it would be, let me just write it out, 2.39, and before this point ended up here, it was 5 places this way. So we count that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means our initial number was 2, 3, 9, and we just add zeros here. 0, 0, 0. So this would have been our initial value before we put it in standard form. So that means our decimal point was here at first. Good? Hope we understand that. So it's not too difficult. And of course, from here, if we want to make it in standard form, we do the same thing. So remember, we move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you see we would end up with 2.39 multiplied by 10 to the power of 5. So that's just by the way. So you need to know that. And on this one, if you have negative 3, that means that the power, that means that the point was moved from 3 places coming from the opposite direction. So that's from our left. So going back to it, so it's 3.8, and this point here came 3 places this way. So we just go back 3 places now. 1, 2, 3. So our point was initially here. So that means our answer here would have been 0.0038. That would have been our initial number before we moved on to the standard form. So yes, this is another thing you need to be able to do. In the event that you're given in standard form, you have to be able to write it back in the decimal or whatever whole number that you would have had before that. Hope this video and this question was clear enough. But again, as always, if not, you could feel free to write something in the comment section. So I could always find you or you could find me, and we could do this. We could do more examples of this. So again, if that's clear, that's good, and that's my aim. Always, again, feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and turn on that notification button if you haven't as yet, so that you can always be notified on the days of the week when I always put up a video, Monday to Friday. So until then, you take care, enjoy your weekend, all the best. Until Monday.